Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the dissemination event of a SELFIE pilot in Armenia. I am Cristiana. I'm the country liaison for Armenia at the European Training Foundation. Before opening the event, just few information on the Zoom technicalities. You will notice that interpretation is available in the button. You can find the channels below on the bottom of the screen. You just need to select the language that you want to follow. During the meeting, you can put your questions in the chat box. During the discussion time, if you wish to take the floor and make an intervention, please use the raise the hand button, which is available under the reactions tab. Just a reminder, during the presentations, please remember to keep your microphone muted so to avoid the background noises and echo. I'm now glad to pass the floor to Mr. Artak Pogosyan, Director of the National Center of Education Technology. Mr. Pogosyan, the floor is yours. I think he has connected, correct? Raisa, can you just confirm?
Yes, maybe there is some
maybe there is some
issue. Yes.
Technical problem.
I will check. Maybe you can proceed and then he will take the floor.
Okay.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello. Yes, we can hear you. My computer had a problem related to Zoom, and unfortunately, I'm not capable of joining Zoom, so there is an issue with Zoom. That's why I have to connect using my cell phone. And now I would like to welcome all the participants. I'm really very happy that due to your efforts, the academic educational establishment of Armenia managed to join the SELFIE program. I'm well aware that the schools have undertaken the filling in of the surveys, and today we're going to summarize the works that have been undertaken. And I do hope, and I'm sure, that our collaboration within the scope of this project is going to expand, and a greater number of schools are going to join the project, because for us, it's really very important to have implementation of ITs in schools, and we are implementing a lot of efforts, a lot of endeavors, so that the schools are capable of using IT in the organization of their everyday teaching and learning, and being able to implement the methods of hybrid education, because we are inclined to believe, we are more than confident that this method, and in general, electronic education in general, turning the academic system, the whole academic process more effective, more interesting for learners. And this gives the chance to the teachers to spend less time as far as administrative and bureaucratic affairs are concerned, and to concentrate more on the academic process and organization of the said process. Hence, I'm really very happy for this particular project, and with great pleasure will I listen to the information that is going to be provided. And in case there are any questions, I will be happy to answer those. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mr. Pogosian, for joining us today, and thank you for the kind words and all the support that the National Center for Education Technologies provided throughout the implementation of the pilot of SELFIE. Before passing the floor to the speakers today, I just wanted to give you a few words on the objective of the meeting today and the items in the agenda. You know, the European Training Foundation, in cooperation with the National Center of Education Technologies in Yerevan and the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, has organized the pilot of a SELFIE tool in the framework of a mentor school project. Now the pilot is concluded, and today we wish to share with all of you the results and look together at possible way forward. As regards the agenda, my colleague Alessandro will provide an overview of a SELFIE tool in Europe and in the partner countries with which ETF is working. Then we will give the floor to the ETF national expert, Ms. Satenika Rakelian, who will present the findings of a SELFIE pilot in Armenia. We will then give the floor to the piloting schools to hear about their experience on this exercise. After that, we will devote some time to think together on how to make the best use of a SELFIE exercise and to discuss on the possible next steps which are planned. I'm now glad to pass the floor to my colleague Alessandro Brolpito. He is expert in digital skills and learning at ETF. Alessandro, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cristiana, and good morning and welcome to all the participants. We are almost 70 people today, and it's a really pleasure to present, introduce SELFIE today. My name is Alessandro Brolpito. I'm a senior human capital development expert. My focus is on digital skills and the use of technologies in teaching, learning, and assessment. The objective of my presentation is to introduce SELFIE. Many of you, especially the schools that participate, are already familiar, but something it's important to recall it, the spirit and the aim of SELFIE. I want to highlight in my presentation the international dimension and provide some key data. Satenik after me is going to go into the details of the outcomes, but just to give the key findings from the pilot. But before starting, let me introduce briefly my organization, the European Training Foundation. The ETF, my organization, is an agency of the European Union, and we focus on human capital development. It means that we support the reform of education and training labor market system in 28 partner countries. The countries surrounding, let's say, the European Union plus the Central Asia. We do in different way. We gather data, develop knowledge, and offer policy advice. And I think in the report that has been distributed just a few days before the event, I hope you had opportunity to glance it. You have all these elements. Last practical information, we are based in Turin, Italy. Next slide, please. So SELFIE is a free web-based self-reflection tool. We know that self-reflection is a powerful cognitive method to really improve our practice, improve our knowledge. And SELFIE is based on self-reflection. At the heart of SELFIE, there is a questionnaire, a validated, scientifically validated questionnaire, addresses a set of topics. The questions are specifically tailored for school managers, teachers, and students. So on the same topic, you might have different questions according to whom they are addressed, to the school manager, to the teachers, or the students. Interesting to highlight that it can be customized. So it means that there are some mandatory questions, but there are also optional questions, and you can enter your own question. Let me say that for the pilot in Armenia, we just use the default questionnaire because we want to test the process, to test the concept. And here you can find the link to the Commission website with all the information. Next slide, please. Let's say that Armenia piloting SELFIE joined a very big international community. I mean, SELFIE has been already used in almost 30,000 schools with more than almost 6 million of users in 86 countries. So the international, of course, EU member states, plus other countries in the world, including Armenia. And it is in 41 languages, including Armenian. Next slide, please. So here I'm just summarizing the key features. If you plan to use and use again on regular basis, SELFIE can be used by any devices. This is very important, especially for the students. We know that they love the smartphone, so it can be run also from this type of device. Is secure, is really implementing the most advanced security standards. And another important element is that it's anonymous. It means that there is no way to identify one responder. And also the schools are the owner of the SELFIE school report, so they can decide to keep it for themselves, internal reflection, or to share with the national authorities. But what is important is the anonymity. Why it is important? Because in a self-reflection process, it's very important that you are in a safe environment where you are not judged, in a way that you really reflect on the question and try to answer based on your experience. As I said, it's flexible, and it automatically provides to the SELFIE school coordinator, who is an important actor in the governance of the implementation of SELFIE, a report full of chart of data aggregated at school level in a way that the school can reflect on where to go, which are the strong elements, but also the less strong elements. So in a nutshell, let's go to the next slide. Let me say why you should use a SELFIE. Because I want to improve my digital capacity. Starting and focusing on my school, that is unique, is involving the school community. So it's involving the school leader, teachers, and students. It's fully online, and it has an ecosystem that supports guidelines for the SELFIE school coordinator, for example. And it covers the area that you see in the picture. The SELFIE system has been updated after the COVID-19. Artak in his opening highlighted that they want Armenia should really promote a hybrid and blended learning. So there are specific questions about this topic, for example, under teaching and learning, but it looks to the other, like leadership, to this continual professional development, and etc. Next slide. So SELFIE, as we piloted in Armenia, is definitely for schools, any school, but it's also for policymakers, providing some data for evidence-based policy making. This is an important element to highlight. Next slide, please. So when we look to the SELFIE pilot in Armenia, we didn't do it in isolation, but we were connecting to another important project, that is the Mentor School project. And what we aimed to do was to really see a proof of concept of SELFIE. Does it help to support the development of the digital capacity in schools? Could work or could not work. And you will see very interesting finding in a specific context of Armenia. We want also to connect with the ongoing reform international initiative. And we also included in the report, please read it because it's really with a very good information in my view. It's about how to upscale the tools and so progressively enlarge. And this is again in line with what Artak was mentioning in his opening. Next slide, please. So this is was actually taken 1 year the implementation and the pilot of SELFIE. At the beginning, we started with national stakeholder, for example, with the translation, ensuring quality translation of the tool. Then in October, we entered into the operational phase. We launched the questionnaire with the mentor schools involved. Then at the 7th, we closed the questionnaire. And then the school started to analyze the data and to reflect on what could be done to improve. Something is clearly known, some was less known. And then we have today the dissemination and event. And with my colleagues, Christiana, we plan in March to visit Yerevan to follow up with the system stakeholders on how to move next. Next slide, please. This is something just to mention that we took care of the analysis of the result, making a quantitative and qualitative analysis. This is something that Satanik, after my intervention, is going to do. So no, I'm not going to enter into the details, but here you see the very fine different elements that has been analyzed. Next slide, because I want to finish on time, so I'm trying to speed up a bit. So these are the key figures. The pilot of SELFIE is important to highlight, has been based on a national team, and this is about the governance. And if we want to scale up, we need to think about to the SELFIE school coordinator in each pilot school, but also to a team that was put in place, including ETF, the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, was an incredible and important partner. Last but not least, NSET, and the mentor project, plus the 22 SELFIE schools. And here you see basically all the key figures. Okay. Of course, the system at system level, the data that you are going now to listen from Satanik are not representative of the entire education system. You need to prepare a representative sample of school, but it was interesting to understand the level of digital capacity of the mentor schools in the mentor project. And please, now I would go just before finishing, I want to make an announcement. These are two publications that are really relevant. You can, with your smartphone, pick up the QR code, or the slide will be shared. But these are two publication of ETF about the digital education reforms and the use of self-reflection for quality assurance in education, in the use of digital technologies in teaching and learning. So I would stop here to finish almost on time. I thank you for your attention. And at this stage, I would pass the floor to Satanik because now we enter into the result. As I mentioned, there are many aspects that we could extrapolate from the SELFIE report, and we are going to share with Satanik the key findings. So Satanik, the floor is yours, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alexandru.
Hello.
Yes,
I am acting as a national coordinator in this project, acting on behalf of the ETF, and would like to present the outcomes. So SELFIE team was comprised of NSET representatives, and Raisavitsan was the mentor coordinator. As an ETF, it was me who was acting, Satanik Arakelian, and also 22 mentor schools who also were involved into the project. 22 mentor projects were representatives of the mentoring schools, and they have been chosen by the NCET.
Okay, thank you.
So how was the whole process organized? We have had a methodology which has been elaborated in parallel. We have had the implementation, and also the outcomes were analyzed. And we're talking about the methodology. We have foreseen translation of the ecosystem. Also qualitative and quantitative analysis of the data, and also focus groups in order to carry out the qualitative analysis. During the implementation phase, we have had data collection about the schools that were supposed to participate. Also, the number of participants who were supposed to participate have been made precise. And also the coordinators who were supposed to coordinate the whole process and the survey and questionnaire of the SELFIE process. And also we have had a starting meeting on 26th of October. And also we have organized a focus group discussion, which have happened in 3 schools based on voluntary basis. And then for the last stage, we have had quantitative analysis, also analysis of the ecosystem, and obviously the outcomes have been summarized. I would like to present the outcomes based on quantitative and quantitative analysis. We're talking about the qualitative analysis method. I've also indicated that the focus group discussion has been organized and 3 directions have been carried out: SELFIE implementation, its effectiveness, and also the technical steps for the further usage of the school. And overall, the SELFIE in general, its further implementation and further steps of implementation, which will be necessary in order to implement the SELFIE in different schools. I have already presented that we have undertaken the data collection of the mentor schools. I've already highlighted that every single school had 3 representatives: a principal of the school, a teacher, and a learner. I'm sorry, a mentor and a learner. When talking about the coordinator, the main role was to coordinate the whole process and to keep the link between the participants of the school. When talking about the launching meeting, we had the representative from the NCET, from the ETF, and also the principals of 22 schools, the teachers and the coordinators of the 22 schools. We have undertaken training, and certain practical works have been undertaken in order to register the schools in the schools, all the details of the schools, and etc. All the data that has been collected, the number of the participants, and naturally, this has been followed by the focus group discussion in 3 schools, and we have already discussed this, and I will present the data afterwards. When talking about the quantitative analysis, this has been based on the anonymous data that has been collected, and as Alessandro has mentioned, these data are not representatives because as far as their number is concerned, they are quite small. That is to say, they're not representative, but they are very interesting per se. The overall number of participants was 2,377. You can see the number of principals, the learners, and the teachers. 3 different levels, so primary school, secondary school, and high school. When talking about the overall satisfaction, out of 10 possible, 8, which is quite a high level, I would say, when talking about the number of participants. There was just one issue that I would like to present. Out of 22 schools, only 13, the outcomes of 13 schools are involved here because it was foreseen to do the survey from 27th of October to 7th of November. However, 9 schools were not able to meet the deadlines, and they were not able to send their survey. Although all the schools have received their reports, and the reports have been discussed at schools.
Անհրաժեշտ կլինեն իրենց հարցման վերաբերյալ բացահայտված արդյունքների հիման վրա։ Հետևաբար 2307-ը
So 2,300, when we're talking about 2,300, we're talking about 13 schools, and the 13 schools have managed to undertake their surveys within the deadlines. And our analysis have been carried out based on the 13 schools, the outcomes of the 13 schools.
Ուրեմն հարցումը իրականացվել է 8 ոլորտների
So 8 areas have been taken into consideration: leadership, cooperation and links, infrastructures, equipment, continuous professional development, pedagogy, assistance and resources, pedagogy, implementation in the classroom, assessment, and digital skills of the learner. I would like to highlight that here, as far as the fields are concerned, the highest ranked was the continuous professional development. You can see that 87% and 4.3 points. And when talking about the assessment practices, this was the lowest. So 4.3 or 87%. If we go over all the fields, we can say that their ranking is average, though if you pay a meticulous attention, you're going to see that in all the fields, we have certain need for improvement. And if we take into consideration the assessment and the evaluations here, we can again refer back to the fact that the principals and the learners and the teachers have evaluated those, and we can see certain difference in those, but all the data are presented, the average of all the data is presented. However, if we talk about a more meticulous analysis, we can reveal a lot of other problems that are prevalent in the field. The next slide, please. If we talk about different fields, when talking about the factors that are going to inhibit the implementation of the technologies, in order for us to understand what factors are going to impede or are going to create a problem for implementing the technologies at schools. In the first part of the questions, we were talking about the lack of financial resources and the biggest number of the teachers, that is 33.8% said that yes, they lack financial resources. Then they were talking about the lack of time. We do understand that this is an issue, and this depends also on the feedback of the learners, the feedback that the learners provide. And the next one that referred to the internet connection, here we're talking about 26.11%. This refers also to the answers of the learners, because not only the learners, but also the teachers participated in the surveys. And the issue is in many cases related to the non-existent or a very weak internet connection. When talking about the positive factors of teaching learning, and when talking about the implementation of the virtual environment, here it has received the highest assessment, 52.44%. Both the principals and the teachers and the learners have highlighted that there are different virtual environments which are implemented in the classroom quite effectively. When talking about the existence of digital strategies, 39% give the possibility to understand that the involvement of teachers and the learners in the digital education in very many cases is the reason for having the digital strategy, because they already have the approaches that give a possibility to implement the digital strategies quite effectively at schools.
The next slide, please.
Here, let's talk about continuous professional development. In the first slide, when we were talking about the fields, we have highlighted that continuous professional development received the highest ranking. And the lowest were the internships. When talking about the CPD, if you pay attention, you're going to see that 70%, more than 70% of the teachers, we're considering this to be really in either very effective or very effective when talking about the upscaling and their continuous professional development. But it is very important to understand that sometimes the teachers sometimes need certain equipment in order to be able to implement the continuous professional development, and certain equipment that would allow them to be in contact with the learners and to be able to undertake digital tools into the academic system. Then we also had a problem related to the timing. 25% of the teachers were highlighting that they are spending more than 50% of their teaching time to technologies. That is to say, during the lesson, teaching by means of technologies. If you pay attention, 36% uses technologies, less than 50% during the classroom. However, even these people have highlighted that they are quite interested in using the technologies in their lessons. The learners were quite high as far as the learning using the digital technologies is concerned, but in very many cases, the lack of timing or the lack of feedback is having a negative effect on the learning. When talking about the learners and the implementation of IT by the learners, if you pay attention, the aim of this question was to understand how the learners use the ITs, how much time they allocate to this, inside the classroom, inside the school, inside the classroom, and for their pastime. And you can see some average data here in the classroom at least once every week. So 46% of learners use technologies at least once every week. And overall, in general, 90% are not using technologies. If you pay attention, you can see that when talking about technology as a pastime, 43%, more than 43% of learners are using it for pastime. And here a question arises. We need to understand what is the aim of these technologies. And also to understand what is the aim of using technologies in the classroom, in their teaching. And we need to understand that if the people are not using technologies, 90% of people are not using technologies in the classroom. We need to understand why they are not using it. Because if you pay attention to the data, we also have the usage of technologies outside the school. And you can see that the number is quite low, the percentage is quite low, and this means that either the learners do not have any equipment to use it, or maybe the equipment are not really useful for their academic programs or for the teaching or for the learning, or maybe outside school, they are not convenient for doing certain learning things outside school. So technical knowledge of the learners. So when talking about student access to devices outside school, and only 6% do not have any access to devices outside school, 16% is using equipment and devices which are not suitable for learning. Of course, we need to go deeper into the analysis and to understand how the devices can be ameliorated and what technological devices can be provided in order to ensure that the digital learning and teaching is taking place. When talking about the technical knowledge of the learners, it turns out that more than 25%, in particular 25.22%, is seeking certain advice and assistance in the internet. That is to say, they are quite independent per se. They have certain level of knowledge and they are capable of searching for information and surfing the net. They are independent. 62%, in case of having certain issues, refers back to the members of the family. As far as you know, we have undertaken analysis, and in the questionnaire, we're also asking questions about the digital abilities and the devices that are existent in the families. And here it's really very important to highlight that the 23 and 62% is quite high a number. And we wanted to understand what is the link of the families with the teachers as far as the ITs is concerned. We can say that the percentage of these families was really very low. That is to say, both the principals and the teachers of the school witness that families do not have the digital skills and abilities which they will be capable of assisting the learners. And also maybe when not the technical level of the learners, this percentage is preconditioned by the fact that the families do not have the corresponding devices. And so we can say that as an outcome of quantitative analysis, irrespective that all the fields have been ranked higher than the average. However, if we take each of them separately, they need additional analysis and certain amelioration and improvement. When it comes to qualitative analysis, as I've already indicated at the very start, we have carried out focus group discussions in 3 different rooms, and the schools have been selected on randomly, and we had 60 teachers, 131 learners, and 8 principals. We had 3 sets of questions, the aim of which was to understand how the SELFIE was used and whether there were any problems in using that, whether it was effective, and whether the surveys were effective and the outcomes of the surveys were effective for the further development of the school. And also we wanted to understand what other further steps will be necessary in order to implement SELFIE in their particular schools. And also what operations and what action plans should be elaborated. Next slide, please. So we can say that the SELFIE tool, and we're talking about the assessment of the SELFIE tool in the ecosystem, the biggest amount of people ranked the effectiveness of SELFIE as 4.45. When working with the SELFIE website, as far as the links were concerned, etc., no school has highlighted any technical issue. And all the issues that were present were mostly related to the human capital, meaning to human operations. When talking about the effectiveness and the usefulness of the SELFIE outcomes, the representatives have highlighted that the outcomes of SELFIE were really very useful in order for them to understand what fields need to be improved. And the SELFIE outcomes have urged them to have the action plans for the schools. 2 schools have indicated as an outcome of SELFIE report, they have decided to improve the infrastructures, the internet connection, also to have new subjects and disciplines which are going to use IT technologies and to have new methodologies of using IT in their teaching. The needs and the possibilities of having SELFIE in the future, every single one has highlighted that SELFIE was effective and they have the resources and the capital in order to use it, because this gives a possibility to assess the strengths and the weaknesses of the schools, and also to reveal the possible changes that will be possible to implement and to improve. And SELFIE can be used as a national level when talking about the strategy at the state level. These are the outcomes of the qualitative analysis when talking about the 3 schools that have been involved. Our analysis has yielded this outcome, and let me try to explain it in the next slide. The main policy, the main operations of the policy, which we suggest as far as the integration of the SELFIE is concerned. At a school level, here we are talking about having a digital development plan based on the SELFIE report. One of the schools has sent the approach to this. We have not included this here because they still needed re-elaboration, but as a policy, At a school level, we can highlight that SELFIE can be integrated into the educational system as far as the development plan of the school is concerned. And also when talking about the SELFIE school coordinator network, because this was a suggestion that came from the schools, and this would give a possibility to involve new schools and to carry out the training of the coordinators and the participants of the school. Also, based on the SELFIE report as an outcome of discussions, they gave the possibility of certain schools to invite other schools and to present the outcomes, that is to say, to enlarge the scope of cooperation. When talking about the integration of SELFIE into a broader sense, when talking about the system level, we can integrate it as far as the quality assurance system is concerned, in order to have decisions that are based on data as far as quality assurance is concerned, decision-making is concerned, also to involve SELFIE when implementing strategy, when implementing the strategy. We can also say that it can be involved when we are elaborating the budget. So the SELFIE outcomes can be very handy. SELFIE reports can be really very handy. And this will allow to understand what separate lines of the budget are going to be. SELFIE governance. When talking about SELFIE integration, both at a school level and a system level, we're going to face the necessity to govern it. And we suggest that at a state level, it's the NCET, which carries out the coordination as far as the secondary schooling is concerned. When talking about the VAT system, it should be the NCET who is going to carry out the coordination. At a state level, this can be academic systems or different NGOs that are going to carry out the coordination of the SELFIE. Of course, cooperating with the schools and with particular stakeholders. When it comes to the overall implementation of SELFIE, we suggest to plan pan-school self-reflection, which can happen once every 2 years in order to implement certain policies and to implement the outcomes in different processes. When talking about the schools, basically every single school can decide the frequency. It can happen once every half a year, it can be at a local level, it can happen once every year, and etc. So this will depend on the needs that every single school will have when talking about the further improvement. I think I finished ahead of time. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can voice them, then we're going to discuss them. If you have any suggestion, if our ETF colleagues have certain suggestions, or anybody, if you have any questions, we can discuss it here, or if you can have anything to say. If any school would like to present their own experience, you can present it, no problem here. You can just raise your hand. I'm going to give you the floor and you will be able to express yourself. Is there anybody who would like to say anything? Let me see whether there are any questions in the chat box.
I see.
No school would like to express an idea. Yulia Stakian and also Armenia Hovhannisyan would like to have the floor. Please, the floor is yours. As a school, maybe we're going to give the floor to Armenia Hovhannisyan, then we're going to give the floor to Yulia Stakian. Thank you. I do welcome everybody, all the participants. Frankly speaking, it's already the second time that we are quite interested in these discussions. I would also like to, I can talk in English if our guests would like to hear that in English. So there's interpretation, so you can go on talking Armenian. So you decide the way you want. Okay, in that case, I'm going to speak in Armenian. I'm inclined to believe that this platform is really very important. It's very important to implement SELFIE because as far as we can understand, this is being guaranteed by the NSET, and naturally, a lot of things that we might not notice during our operations, or we might fail to analyze very deeply. All these questions are going to be solved by the system, and the NSET is going to be involved in the whole process because the NSET has a greater understanding of the challenges of distance education, especially after COVID, and all the things are going to be discussed more in detail, and they are going to be presented to us in a ready-made format. And I'm inclined to believe that this platform, SELFIE, which we need this way or another, of course, we have been working in different platforms, but anyway, we need one unanimous, unified platform, which will be quite practical for the usage. And I would like to indicate that me personally, I think that it will be quite effective as far as the surveys and the questionnaires are concerned. I have been talking to my colleagues a lot. I have been examining certain things. I have been analyzing different platforms. I would like to say that it would be easier to plan our works using the SELFIE, to share the experience, to carry out self-reflection, and most importantly, the cooperation with the schools, which during the last decade and for many years was not that effective. Now, our cooperation between different schools are becoming more and more active. And in this particular case, this platform, I'm sure, I'm quite optimistic in this respect. And I think that this platform is going to help us to succeed. And I would like to highlight it again, that NSET is going to help us a lot because they are doing everything ideally. And they are not going to leave us alone in this particular question as well. This much I would say. I do wish success. And I hope that we're going to be more informed as far as SELFIE is concerned. And all types of questions or the outcomes of the surveys, maybe, even if the level of satisfaction is not that high, this comes from the lack of information. And during this period of time, we might ensure that technologies that any way or another have penetrated into our life, cell phones that are being used by the learners, and etc., we need to understand how to use them more effectively when talking about academic purposes. So before creating this technological base, why not? We can use the cell phones, for example, and the cell phones can be utilized in order to implement certain digital things. Thank you for listening to me, and I do wish success, everybody. Thank you. Yulia Stakian wanted to have the floor. Yulia Stakian, are you with us now? Hello, I do welcome everybody. I'm really very sorry. I can't really switch on my camera because my internet connection is quite weak. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to all the colleagues who participated in the project. This has been quite an interesting report. And here, seeing the advantages of this tool, I'm going to join the suggestion that we can also implement it in the web system. Because when talking about the GIZ, the web system is at the heart of the GIZ. And I would like to agree with the expert in a sense that when talking about the development of digital policy, as far as we could see the toolkit, it was quite practical, and this can really boost that digital policy at different stages of schooling starts to develop. I would suggest also, in case in the future our colleagues have the intention to implement this at the VAT system, in this particular case, I would suggest to use to link its toolkit and the frequency of using the toolkit with the strategy of the VAT system in order for us to understand how much the VAT institutions are using the technologies. Thank you. I would like to give the floor to Musailian. You have raised your hand, G. Musailian. Thank you, Julia, for your opinion, for your speech. In that case, maybe Karina Simonian, because Musailian is not reacting. Ms. Simonian, we can hear you. First of all, I would like to welcome everybody. I'm really very happy to see familiar faces, Tanik, our ETF colleagues. We have been cooperating very, very closely. We are now cooperating, we have been cooperating. I do welcome this initiative. It has been highlighted from the very beginning that this toolkit has been used in 86 countries, at least 85 countries, not counting Armenia. Since the good things, the advantages are obvious, I would like you to talk about the challenges in case we use this toolkit. What problems we might end up having when using the SELFIE toolkit? I would like our ETF colleagues to highlight whether there has been any problems, whether you have accumulated an experience of using SELFIE in different countries. Thank you, Ms. Simonian. I guess Alessandro will talk about this, so about the challenges of using SELFIE in different countries.
Yes, but I would leave the floor to the schools that I'm really looking forward to hear challenges and suggestions as well from their experience.
Okay.
We have Anush Torosyan. We have also basic school number 135. Maybe I'm going to give the floor to them, please. I am Aram Solomonian, the coordinator of the school. Hello, I'm really very sorry. I am not able to switch on my camera because it's not really very convenient for me. I would like to express my gratitude for the toolkit. It has been accepted with enthusiasm, with interest, both as far as the teachers are concerned and the administrative staff of the school, and also the learners. Anyway, when sending the links, we try to encourage people to be as honest as possible. We have highlighted that it's going to be anonymous because it was very important for us to make people understand that this is anonymous so that they can be very frank and honest in their responses. And I wish that the outcomes that have been shown by SELFIE tool, I would really like this reports to be used at a higher level. Why not also to improve the technical saturation of the schools? I understand the reports are for the schools only, but I think that this can be really very useful at a national level. We have also seen that, for example, the number of computers was not sufficient, the digital skills were not sufficient, etc. So we are inclined to believe, I'm inclined to believe that this data can also be of great use at a state level, because this will give the state a possibility to give solutions to certain problems. And I think that NCET will also welcome this idea. When it comes to the toolkit had a lot of positive outcomes, had a lot of positive sides. And as a coordinator, I've participated in the questionnaires, and it took me a lot of reflection to answer the question. I'm inclined to believe that in the future, this toolkit has a great future in Armenia, and I do hope that we are going to have this victorious process of the SELFIE tool, and I do hope that all the schools are going to get the reports that they want to without any additional expenses, because the SELFIE is being given to us free of charge, and it is given to Armenia. So grateful to everybody, to you, Satanik, for the work that you have done, to our colleagues for very proactive work that you have carried out. I do render my gratitude to all the participants. Thank you, Madam. I would like to highlight that every single school has received a report, and the report relevant to that particular school. And then NSED has received some coordinated data from all the schools. It has been aggregated data, but every single school is getting the report relevant to that particular school. And the anonymous data and the report belongs to that particular school. We have discussed this issue in your school as well. We've discussed it during the focus group discussion. I remember that. Thank you. Next, I would like to give the floor to Anush Torosyan. Hello. I represent Panadzo 19 Basic School. From the very start, we have participated in the project and we have used the tool. We generated the links, and the links have been sent to the teachers, to the learners, and to the administrative staff of the school. I would like to highlight that in case of the learners, there were certain deadlines that they needed to follow, and we have been very attentive because we are talking about kids after all. And on the spot at school, we organized our filling in the questionnaire. At the end, everybody was quite enthusiastic. Everybody was welcoming the idea, and everybody was welcoming the idea of getting a certificate. And this was really very encouraging for the kids. The kids have also sent their certificates to school, highlighting that they participated in the survey. Obviously, the survey was anonymous, but the fact that they were getting the certificate at the end, they were quite enthusiastic because they thought that they participated in a kind of a project. The links have been sent to the kids to their electronic email addresses. And I would like to highlight that we have successfully finished everything. I can share my screen, frankly speaking. We have not received the report as such, but on SELFIE page, maybe it's this the report, I don't quite understand, but we have this bar chart and this information. We have the data about the answers, which gives us a possibility, which gives the school the possibility to organize discussions and to understand how digital technologies are being used at schools and what strategy we need to elaborate as far as our teaching learning process is concerned. This much, I guess. I would just like to repeat maybe, but I would like to highlight that the questionnaire and filling in the questionnaire did not pose any problems, neither among the learners nor the teachers. No problems have been highlighted in this respect. Thank you. This is the report. If you pay attention, you also have the report in the PDF on the left side. These are the aggregated data per fields, per the respondents, the teachers, the principals, and the learners. And based on that, you can undertake your quantitative and qualitative analysis. So you can have the PDF and download it, and you could have made certain decisions based on the outcomes of the report. Thank you. Just one thing, when we are uploading the PDFs, it's either having as a JPEG or only certain parts of the report. I don't really know whether we can download the report holistically. I don't know where to upload it, where to download it. So write to me separately. I will give you more details on this. Okay? Yeah. Okay. No problem. Thank you. Here we have Lana Garlaba from Erasmus Plus
Satenik, perhaps
office.
just one comment. Of course, I'm so glad to hear, and I encourage all of you to share ideas. But so just to recall that Satenik was presenting the aggregated data from all the mentor schools, and therefore was putting together the data collected. Anusha was presenting the report that the school received. So you see the different level of granularity. The system perspective, the ones presented by Satenik, and what is actually in the school, in the specific school community. And this report is in the strong hands of the school. They can really discuss with the school community their own data. The ideal situation is that with this information, you put together some students, some teachers, and discuss about the analysis, what is the most important key findings, identify perhaps one priority in your school, and try to develop a set of improvement actions. in a way that you really try with your own capacity, perhaps with the support of the state as well, of course, to make some changes. But what is important, that you can engage all the community. And this is an important booster to really boost innovation, creativity, and ownership, because something is in our hands, and we can make some changes in this respect. The floor is back to you, Satanik.
Thank you, Alessandro. Now, Lana, please.
Lana, please, the floor is yours. Hello, everybody. I'm really very happy to see you, to hear you, and to witness this report. I'm really very thankful to our ETF partners, to our ETF colleagues, to Christiana and to Alessandro for inviting me. And Satanik, you and your team have undertaken something really very important. I'm really very happy. I'm talking about the report. I'm really very happy that you have a very detailed report, and it was quite surprising that you have presented it during this meeting. It was really very important to present the report. Armenia, together with 85 countries, is inside a network, which is very important because we, Armenia, just like other countries, are in the process of digitalization. Thank you for this project. Thank you for this program overall. And thank you for this initiative, for involving us in the whole network, for the possibility of developing the schooling system. You know quite well that Erasmus Plus project is rendering assistance to higher education institutions, and it has been already for 3 years that we are providing financial allocations to that institutions, to vocational education and training institutions. I have a question that I wanted to ask. The schools where the questionnaires have not been carried out and schools that have not been carried out, do the schools still have a chance to be involved into the whole process? Can they make part of other schools who have been involved into the process for a year? What's their possibilities of joining the whole process? And since we are working with advanced institutions, and since digitalization is a very important sector as a priority for our region, we are really very much interested in collaboration with AVED institutions. In case you have an initiative like this, as Yulia has highlighted, we will always be ready to render our assistance, and we will do everything possible in order to make this initiative, to bring this initiative into life. Thank you. Thank you. I think Alessandro is going to answer these questions, and maybe also the representative from the NCET, or Tatavi Gasparian. Maybe we're going to floor to Tatavi Gasparian, and then we're gonna listen to other representatives of other schools in order to get the logical answer to the question. Thank you. Tatavi, Ms. Gasparian. Hello. I listened to all the presentations and to the discussions. Frankly speaking, I didn't know anything about the SELFIE, but I made use of the links. I entered, and I managed also to see the opinions from the teachers and etc. For me, it's a very interesting and acceptable toolkit, because very often we're talking about the fact that we cannot listen to each other's opinions. We are not capable of generalizing things. So the toolkit is quite an interesting one. We will talk about the future of this, because I'm inclined to believe that this needs to be implemented for the bad systems as well, because this is going to help us to solve certain internal issues. I have a question as far as the SELFIE project is concerned, because it forces that certain things need to be summarized, etc. Is there any element of artificial intelligence, I'm sorry, maybe I missed that part, which will give a chance to carry out certain works, because it might happen in certain cases, these generalizations and summaries can be problematic for the institutions. If this artificial intelligence is aggregating the data, summarizing that quite well, if no, maybe you can consider this for the further development of the SELFIE. Why not to have an artificial intelligence assistance in the SELFIE in order to facilitate the whole processes, to aggregate data and to kind of systematize the operations. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gasparian. Alessandro is going to answer all the questions, but I would like to highlight that in our suggestions, we have highlighted, because we have seen this as an issue when talking about the analysis, we have suggested to carry out certain event or series of events when talking about the analytical skills, in order for the schools to be able to analyze the outcome, the data, and then be able to present it to internal stakeholders of the schools. This can also be a solution, but however, if this tool has already been created, you can think of AI solutions, because this is going to facilitate the whole process. Because per se, artificial intelligence, the component of artificial intelligence is coming in order to fill in the gap and in order to render assistance to the whole system. Why not? Maybe we can start thinking about this. Why not? Yes, thank you. Okay. Mariam Sarkisian, please, the floor is yours. You have raised your hand, please. Hello. Together with Mariam Sarkisian, I am #1 high school of Razdan. I am the principal, and we're together with my mom. I would like to highlight this initiative, to welcome this initiative and the events that are being carried out. Why? Because this is a completely new platform for the operational of the skill. This was a new skill that upskilled us. Our speakers were highlighting that everything was okay, but we understood that our expectations would not correspond to the reality. Not always would they correspond to the reality. A lot of questions, a lot of issues were raised based on the outcomes of the surveys and questionnaires. There were a lot of interesting answers to the questions. And I'm inclined to believe that this undertaking is going to have a huge say in the implementation of the digital technologies at schools. We have analyzed the reports already at the Pedagogical Council. We have also tried to analyze the report with administrative staff, with the learners, and etc. So I would also like to highlight that we have also had certain discrepancy and certain differences, because we were evaluating much higher than other participants, and based on the outcomes, we have already elaborated a strategic plan, and we have already initiated certain action plans, certain operations, and I'm inclined to believe that in the future we are going to have more improvements in the whole process. And I think that it will be impossible to make any decisions without using the SELFIE tool. This much, thank you. Thank you. In reality, when we custom at the system, we can say that the answers of the learners are quite lower, the ranking of the learners are quite lower as compared to the answers provided by the teachers and the administrative staff or the principals of the schools. It was really very important. It was a revelation. Another thing I would like to highlight, as an outcome of discussions, we also understood that it is a new skill, because the learners themselves have learned how to participate in questions and surveys like this. I do appreciate the whole procedure, because the kids themselves understood that they have a kind of a question in front of them, that they need to be quite attentive. They need to answer the questions, because sometimes they wouldn't even remember that or anything like that happened, or no, they didn't pay attention to that. For the learners, I think that it was really a very important survey. Thank you. And Guar Musalyan from the Asian Bank, please, Ms. Musalyan. Hello, dear colleagues. I'm very sorry for not being able to connect because I had a technical issue. I'm from Asian Development Bank. I'm in charge of academic programs. And we have cooperated with NSET. I have seen that in this platform we have also a question related to infrastructures and etc. And the ranking was more than 4. I would like to understand whether this platform has had a role or no. When saying an infrastructure, did they also mean the platform or they meant all other infrastructures? And if the platform has been taken into consideration, how effective the platform is? Thank you. I would like to answer the question and then maybe Raisa is going to supplement. When talking about infrastructure, we were talking about virtual learning environments, and by saying a virtual learning environment has received quite a high ranking. It was the highest, and hence we can say that it has a positive impact and it has assisted the academic process during the COVID and post-COVID, because the learners and the teachers have highlighted that they have certain access to those platforms and they're using those. Raisa, maybe you have anything to supplement? I don't know. Thank you. Since the survey was adapted, we have also added a question about e-school as a virtual environment. So I don't think that in the surveys they have also answered the question about using the selfie. I don't think this was the case. Maybe in future we can adapt the questionnaire a bit more, since the certain adaptability is possible. We can also include a question about the platform in order to understand whether the e-school platform has been used or no, so to have a separate question about the e-school. Just one addition, the system, the questionnaire of the selfie has generated standard questions, but every single school had a possibility to generate more questions, to customize the questionnaire depending on the needs. This time, since we had certain pressure in time, we were not able to adapt it, to customize it. But anyway, every single school and the principals of the school and the staff of the school have the possibility to customize it and to adapt it to their own needs, because the outcomes and the results and the answers to these particular questions can serve as a basis for elaborating their action plan. So you personally can cast a look and can see that if a question is interesting for the NCET, you can suggest these questions to be involved into the questionnaire and get the answers, and the answers are going to provide you a possibility of making decisions based on the outcomes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I think no one else has a question. I can't see any hands that are raised.
Is yours?
Okay, so I didn't interrupt the discussion because these are moments where we really, from my side, understand and I pick up important information about your experience. So thank you very much for this. And there were some questions that also would deserve some answer, and try to pick up some of them because I don't have the time. And now I would like really to enter in the next item in the agenda related, let's say, to look ahead. So what we can do next. But in this respect, before introducing some colleagues that I would like to really take the floor, what I would like to say in relation, it's great to hear your experience. It's great that we highlighted the scalability and the different level of granularity. SELFIE could be good because you can reflect on your school community with your community. And this is really important to engage. When somebody is asking me, what do you think about something? You are engaging me in an innovation project, and together we can find a good solution, perhaps a specific in my school. About the results, of course, is a self-evaluation. So at system level, it's important to use this, I like the word you use, this toolkit, because it's not just a questionnaire, it's the dashboard for the SELFIE school coordinator, is the report, and there are Erasmus Plus projects that develop a good ecosystem, because one challenge that we didn't mention so much is about the analysis. We took some time to digest all the data that Satanik was presenting, and I would really strongly advise you to go to the report and read it, because there are important figures. But the sample of school that we were testing and piloting SELFIE were mentor schools. So schools that somehow are good ones in a position to provide, let's say, distance educations to rural schools that face a shortage of teachers, for example, in STEM or in other subjects. So it's clear that we might have different results if we make a broader adoption. But what I want to say, and Raisa can, of course, we can close the slide already in the meantime, so we see each other. But what is important, Raisa can say how to scale up SELFIE and in the closure. And there are many ideas. We might look to general education again and to the additional mentor schools. We could look into that as well. But what is important is to have this mentor concept where also there is a peer learning activities among the school applying SELFIE. There was a question also about by Tavik about artificial intelligence. SELFIE tried to be technological neutral. So it's about our relation with the technology. To what extent we are integrating in our pedagogy, in our teaching instructions. Because the technology is very attractive, but then it makes sense only if it's really improving the learning outcomes of the students. So we can add some artificial intelligence is in the spotlight, but in the end, the questions that are there could be also relevant for integrating ChatGPT or other tools in your lessons. So this is, I wanted just to pick up some of the questions. I want to give a couple of hints as well, and then we start with I would like to involve some other colleagues, but let's say at national level, it's important to have a governance. The governance that you see in the report is an example, but it's clear that we need a governance at local level with the SELFIE school coordinators and at national level with the SELFIE national coordinators. And SET made a great job in this respect to really inform with Satanik. They were really informing. They put synchronous and asynchronous channels in order to connect, share knowledge, experience. And this is important. Could be also an NGO that can support the exercise, but it's very important to have a governance. How to use the data, it's really very much linked to the quality assurance. Of course, the SELFIE is a kind of data. We can't give up to the traditional data that statistical office can provide, the number of computers and etc., etc. But it's very important to hear the attitude of the practitioners. In this, so it's important to have both the voices. A self-reflection could prepare an inspection, for example, or could be used for, in any case, for quality assurance. But now I have to stop myself and move ahead in what it's looking ahead. So we made a good job, I think, an excellent job done by the schools and at the central level. But now it's time to look ahead. And I would like to discuss, perhaps inviting some of you to discuss how to make the best use of the SELFIE toolkit in Armenia, and eventually highlight relevant initiatives. In this respect, I would like to invite, for example, Mr. Katsutoshi Katani from ILO, whether I would like to give the floor to you for 3 minutes maximum, but you might eventually highlight, and this is a message for all, I have the same question for all, to highlight one relevant initiative that ILO is doing, and to see how we could eventually connect or make use of SELFIE. So it would be great if we could hear from Nune or from ILO in general, sorry. And then, of course, I would like also to listen to Julia. Julia was mentioning that you know that there is a version of that specific version of SELFIE specifically for that. And there is also, when work-based learning is take place, a version that is include question for trainers. So it's very important that SELFIE is ready for that. And I would be very happy to hear from Julia a concrete action, perhaps, where we could connect. I would also invite Gohara Musaliena, that was already intervening before, whether Azure Development Bank has. So we are taking a look to the institutional level. And last but not least, David Avakian from the youth delegation, if you would like also to say something, that would be really appreciated. This is a new tool. We are promoting this tool to support the education reforms. So my focus in this session is more at national level. So I would really like to pass the floor, for example, to ILO first, and then so. Do you see how you could use a SELFIE, or whether you have relevant initiative about digital skills or digital education that could be taken into account? Because there is a lot of work to do, and we need to synergize. This is my objective. The floor is yours in 3 minutes maximum, please.
Thank you, Alessandro.
Since the majority of the participants are Armenians, I'm going to switch on to Armenian. I'm sorry, my colleague Astoshi was present only from the very beginning because he had another meeting, so he left the meeting. So that's why I'm gonna present very briefly what we're doing. I do render my gratitude to the participants, and I would also like to render my gratitude for the presentation of this very interesting initiative. As it has already been indicated, different other colleagues who are into VET system, we can start indicating and talking about the implementation of SELFIE into the VET system. We are currently discussing a new project of rendering assistance to the government. In particular, we are talking about the WBL programs. And in this respect, we foresee rendering our assistance. As you might know, the labor market When talking about the integration into the labor market, this is a very priority issue. Also taking into consideration the forcefully displaced people and the huge number of these people, and this project, professional development for those seeking recruitment, and also WBL would promote their integration into the labor market. When talking about the digital school or digital technologies, currently the world is moving forward as far as the digital skills implementation is concerned, and naturally the first demand that is being put forward by the employers is the knowledge of digital tools. And in this respect, the VET institutions and the implementation of the system in the VET institutions will not only help to improve the governance, but also to implement certain components that are very much needed by the employers. I would also like to talk about another initiative that we have undertaken. Mr. Alessandro, you have indicated that this tool can also be very useful for those who are elaborating different policies as far as education is concerned. In this respect, I would like to highlight that we have received a request from the government to help them to have certain regulations in the field, and I'm inclined to believe that this initiative that the government has today is going to help us, that the people who work on digital platforms and the ones who are in the education system and who are digitalizing their education have their own tools for doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, Nune, for your intervention. We will stay in touch. This is, as I mentioned before, in March, I plan to visit Yerevan, and we would have the opportunity to talk together about the opportunity to synergize. That is quite complex, and therefore we need really the bottom-up approach that SELFIE propose, starting from the VET school, going up, can be very helpful to really address a specific need for specific occupations, for specific sectors. Thank you for this. I don't know whether I see David Avakiano from the youth delegation. Would you like to say something? You are more than welcome, and we are looking forward to your words.
Yes, thank you very much. It was very interesting to listen, particularly to the people from the schools about their opinion. I would like to say that we are actually doing currently a congenial project in the secondary education in Armenia, and one of the key region where we are doing this project is the region where you also had pilot of SELFIE, Sunik region. We also have some other region where we are going to introduce the STEM laboratories, and those are also the regions which you included into your pilot. So I think that the outcome of the SELFIE project, or let's say you call it tool or toolkit, I have read the report. I think that it will be very useful also for implementation of our budget support program. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for informing about this initiative. There is a convergence of schools and topics. Let's say when we talk about STEM, often there is also the use of technology as a good driver to have better learning experiences. So it would be very great to learn more during my visit with Christiana in Yerevan and to find a connection. What is important at system level, however, is to really have a digital education strategy. In this respect, digital education is mainly positioned for distance education, not so much about innovation in teaching and learning, not so much about for example, blended learning. I could not really find this word, but as Artaka was in the opening mentioning, we could also refer to hybrid learning. And this is the new frontier about modern lifelong learning. These are really concepts where distance or blended learning could really support access to skills, to knowledge. So it's something that at system level, I think I miss a bit this element, and could be an important initiative that we could eventually co-work together. So I don't know whether there are other Agile Development Bank would like to say additional word, introduce one initiative in a short time, 2-3 minutes, if you could, let's say, how we can make the best use of the result of SELFIE, also in relation to your initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alessandro. Irene Hosen. Yes,
I would like to speak in Armenian. I'm inclined to believe that this is a very good toolkit, and going through the report, I was really very happy that the principals of the schools have highlighted that this helps a lot as far as the developmental plans of their schools are concerned, when talking about the distance learning and etc. Since we have financed the platform of distance education, we are really very interested in order for the implementation of the school, in order for the SELFIE to be implemented, not only the mentor schools, but also in other schools. Because as in charge of distance education, I'm really very much interested to have the hybrid education in Armenia, and for hybrid education to be something normal in Armenia and not to be viewed as something innovative. That's why I think that this is something really very important. So when it comes to Asian Development Bank, to their further initiatives, we have a 5-year strategy of collaboration with Armenia, and last year we were in the discussion of the strategy, and the government wants to see us in the VET system, and we've already been talking about the VET system, and other colleagues have already been talking about this, and we're going to be in contact with you and other colleagues in order to understand what can be done for the VET system, because we are not only financing the infrastructures, but also legislative changes, institutional changes, and also capacity building. And I'm going to believe that we have certain floor for cooperation to spread this toolkit, and also to assess and evaluate it, and also to have certain capacity building. This much, thank you.
Thank you very much, Gohar, for these words. Of course, what is really important is to synergize. So what your investment you are doing in infrastructure, it's almost a precondition to really talk about digital education. And so it's very important that we synergize. We have tools, we have fund. There are organization donors that can bring funds, and because this is the tool is for free, but a good governance, a good coordinated approach require resources, but require first of all a clear governance model, a clear where a school has a space as well to really be innovative and take an active role in this process. The last intervention, because we are running a bit late, is there is Julia from GIZ that if you can complement and top up very briefly, we will stay in touch for sure. But Julia, the floor is yours.
Very briefly, just an addition. You know that we have elaborated the law, and the public discussions are already over, and currently we're going to render our assistance to the ministry in order to implement different bylaws and to implement those. If we generalize it a bit, the toolkit was quite a good one, but if there is no financial allocations, and the financial allocations are foreseen, in case there are no financial allocations, it will be quite difficult to rely only on donor organizations. The state needs to be ready for the digitalization, for digital education, that much.
Thank you, Julia. I mean, of course, we are looking ahead. We are looking to the upscaling in a coordinated fashion. It could be one, we can go slowly or faster, but definitely if we want to be a bit faster, we need resources. And here, that's why it's important that we talk to each other as we started to do today, because indeed is a structured approach. And institutionalization, sorry, is a difficult word, require, however, resources. This is quite clear. But thank you. I would close this session in the agenda. I thank all the participants for the information they shared, and I'm looking forward to meet in person, all of you. And now I would pass the floor to Raisa to close the event. And then I will spend a few words as well for the closure. The floor is yours, Raisa.
Thank you, Alessandro. I will speak Armenian. Yes,
First of all, I would like to render my gratitude to all the participants and also to all the stakeholders. As Alessandro has indicated, we have initiated the program 3 years ago, and initially we wanted to create a network of mentor schools who would provide certain distance learning for the communities where we are lacking certain teachers. But for 3 years, we have carried out capacity building in those schools as far as the technical resources and digital skills are concerned. And the next steps was the implementation of the SELFIE toolkit in this particular region, in this particular schools, in order to understand what is the state of affairs of the current schools, how we can render the assistance to the schools in order for them to develop and even further. I'm really very happy that we also had got Mr. Elian from Asia Development Bank, because together we have carried out the e-school Armenian platform works and operations. And our mentor schools are already using the e-school, and they are going to be implemented by all schools of the Republic. So which means that we have also another platform, which is an Armenian language platform, which can be implemented. And by the way, it is synchronized together with the ENG platform, which teachers and the learners penetrating into the platform automatically will have all the data about their schools. What steps to expect? Well, the schools that are participating in the SELFIE, we have been asking the questions. Okay, we have filled in the questionnaire with what the next steps are going to be. And whatever we are planning together with the schools is to carry out individual works with the schools, that is to carry out analysis of the data that has been collected, and then together to create digital strategy of the development of the school, and also to elaborate the action plans together with KPIs, annual KPIs, thus improving the schools even further to assist them. I guess this much. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's time to close this event. We try to be concise and to bring as much as possible ideas and to gather comments, and we got it. And I think we achieved the objective of this dissemination event. Satinic was providing a lot of figures, so we need some time to digest everything, but it was quite clear the quantitative and qualitative dimension. And the very positive, I would say, feedback we got from the school participating. I wanted to highlight that we didn't start the pilot in isolation, and this is a merit of NSAT, but we were connecting to the mentor project. We were connecting, a mentor project was connecting with UNICEF with the ADB. So in this way, I think we can reach the system level and to have tangible changes. And looking forward, once again, as you can see on this slide, we have 3 major milestones. Of course, we distributed the reports in English and in Armenian. So
We would be very grateful if you can take a read. Trust me, you can find very interesting information and provide your comment by Friday next week. We will be very happy to accommodate your comments. Was distributed in advance for this reason. We want to hear your voice. You can share the feedback through email or as you prefer, through Satanik, to Rahisa, but it's very important that this is our product. So once by the end of February, the report will be complete and closed. So we will disseminate to all of you, of course, and to other national stakeholder, international organization, and the Ministry of Education, of course, in order to really raise awareness of what we achieved already and what we plan. Because in the report there are, of course, a very deep description of the pilot itself, but there are also proposals on how to scale up. And from the event of today, we had a lot of concrete ideas and connections, for example, for an extension also in vocational education and training. And last but not least, as I mentioned, I plan to come in Yerevan, so I would like really almost for 1 week, 3 days, and of course during this day I would like to speak with the national stakeholders and see what concrete step we could take. The next slide, please. This is it's part of the SELFIE ecosystem. You will see in the report that there is a part where we are looking, okay, how to scale up. And it's important for us, I'm highlighting some of the elements here. So what will be important to discuss is how to locate SELFIE. So it could be that the Armenian strategy could really refer to SELFIE or other similar tools, but it's important for what? For capacity building of school, at school level, for quality assurance, for evidence-based policy making. So it's important also to SELFIE integration in the wider digital education policies. We do have some policies. We might need really a strategy focused on this, as many countries are doing, and position for what purposes. In addition, it's important the CPD, because self-reflection is not about our digital competence, but we need to really understand the self-reflection. How does it work? So it's important that CPD, on the one hand, provide opportunity to develop self-reflection skills, how to make this exercise at all levels. But also it's important that the result, the outcomes of SELFIE are used to design and provide what is necessary to the teachers. Okay, and it's important to reflect on how often to do this exercise. So, of course, a school can decide in autonomy. Any school in Armenia can do it. But, of course, it's really important to have a coordinated approach in order to have data that can be representative of the progress in education and training in Armenia. Next slide. So these are just, the slides are going to be shared. And this slide, these are important links to the European Commission website, where you can register your school, you can really have information, get important resources. As I said, let's call it the toolkit include the guidelines, include the methodology for the upscaling, include, so there is thanks to also Erasmus Plus project, there is an ecosystem that really is necessary to scale up the tool. Next slide, very quickly. So this is just to, you will, as a participant to this event, you will receive a message where there is a link it to a feedback questionnaire. We aim always to improve our events, so it will be very welcome to receive your feedback and also suggestion for improvement. Last slide, it's about thanking thanking all of you in order we are finishing on time. So this is, I think, something that it's really, I would say, important to respect your busy agenda. But of course, there is to thanks all schools that participated to this event. They dedicated time, resources, and energy. And of course, so this was possible thanks to the schools, to the mentor school in the mentor project. So thank you very much. Thanks to the institution as well in Armenia. I would like to thank ANSET, first of all, because they were taking the leading position in the policy dimension, and they made a very good work to combine this European Commission ETF initiative together with in the framework of an existing project to support to inclusion and equity in education, no? Because the aim at the mentor project, as Raisa was mentioning, is about let's say, providing good education also in rural area. And digital tools can make a difference. So we are still committed to move ahead, and we will meet in March, of course. Thanks also to UNICEF, to ILO, GIZ, ATP. I probably missed some of the other international actors active. And this is a call really to collaborate in order to synergize and make the things happening. So, and a special thanks to Raisa and Satelik, because of course we have been working for a year by now, and it was a long journey. It's the first step, but it was a really hard work altogether. Thanks also to the interpreters that allowed me to follow. We were displaying the slide in Armenian, but I had on my desk also the English versions to follow properly, but thanks for the interpretation. And last but not least, thanks to the ETF colleagues for today, Christiana, Ermina, and Erika, I would say, of course, and for this successful event. So thank you for your participation, and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.